Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:07 now on this Monday morning. Thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company. We got a full slate ahead of us here on a busy, busy day. To clean up the news cycle coming out of the weekend and launch us head first into this week. One of the few weeks remaining before Election Day. 7:05, we'll talk to Joe DeGeneva. At 7:35, we'll get a recap of the Commanders-Ravens very entertaining NFL game with Trevor Maddich. And then at 8:05, Charlie Spearing, author of Amateur Hour, talk about Kamala Harris and this presidential election. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. No amateur over there. Hello, Julie.
Good morning.
Again, I'm trying hard to be objective here, although everyone knows I'm not 100% objective. I do have a rooting interest. I'm a lifelong registered Republican, and I want the Republican ticket to win. That said, oftentimes Republicans aren't great politicians. They're not great at giving interviews. They're not really good at winning elections, and we have to keep it real and say that when that's the case.
Oh, okay, just hold on. One thing I will say over the years, and I too am a lifelong Republican, it is harder to explain things when you're a Republican. It is easier to say, I'm just going to give you free things. Yes. I'm going to give away free things.
Give you free things, and my heart bleeds for all the people who need our help.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it is really difficult to explain why, to some people, why giving away free things doesn't actually help them. It's much easier to say, have a phone, have free apartment, have free everything. So I just want to say that. I do think that we have a tougher job to do.
That's fine. But even if your message is a tougher one to convey, that's why you need to be better. And by the way, and we've won our elections and we've done well, especially considering we've got a hostile media who's constantly attacking us. I lay all of that out there to set it up because there's good news. J.D. Vance is absolutely killing it right now. He is so good at taking these challenges. And I think it's because kind of is sort of a man of the intellectual left himself. He understands their arguments. He's lived in those worlds for quite some time, and he gets it. He just knows how wrong they are. And here's J.D. Vance. And by the way, another aspect of this that is worth noting as you listen to this exchange with the New York Times podcaster about immigration, policies of deporting illegal immigrants, and what that might do to affect the economy and certain industries like construction. Understand that what J.D. Vance articulates here is also quite different than what the sort of doctrinaire, conservative, free market, no tariffs, no taxes sort of position has been over the years. The pure libertarian free market position has been, hey, illegal immigration is fine because that's cheap labor and that'll keep things cheap. And as long as everyone can buy cheap things, eventually that helps the economy.
Open the borders.
Sure. That if you look at pure libertarian free marketeers, they love an open border. Yes. I remember challenging Rand Paul on that one time, saying, you're libertarian, what's that? And he said, oh, in my heart I believe that, but that's only if you get rid of the state, the welfare state. That's only if you don't have all these enticements for people to come here. And also you make sure that the free market sustains livable wages so that people aren't being exploited. Right. Which is so. Right. I lay all of that out here so you can hear this exchange, and I'm going to let it play for quite some time here. A New York Times podcaster challenging J.D. Vance on the feasibility and ramifications of deporting illegal immigrants.
The reason that there is a housing crisis is that not enough houses have been built.
And that we have 25 million people who shouldn't be here.
Well, I mean, this is the thing.
I think it's both.
I know you do. I don't think that many people who look into this agree with you, but about a third of the construction workforce in this country is Hispanic. Of those, a large proportion are undocumented. So how do you propose to build all the housing necessary that we need in this country by removing all the people who are working in construction?
Well, I think it's a fair question because we know that back in the 1960s when we had very low levels of illegal immigration, Americans didn't buy houses, didn't build houses. But of course they did. And I'm being sarcastic, of course, in service of a point, Lulu, the assumption that because a large number of home builders now are using undocumented labor, that's the only way to build homes. I think, again,
the country is much bigger. The need is much bigger. I mean, I'm not arguing in favor of illegal immigration. I'm asking how you would deal.
No, she actually is arguing in favor of illegal immigration.
Yeah. I do love, though, that he had to go, I'm being sarcastic, Lulu.
Right.
Because in her mind, she's like, wait, didn't people buy houses?
She was ready to fact check that.
She was like, is that true?
She is making a case for illegal immigration, but even further, she is making the elitist New York Times major urban center intellectual liberal elitist position that not only do we make a case for illegal immigration, but we need it because we need that cheap slave labor to be exploited so that our homes and apartments can be cheaper. They're fine, by the way, with raising the minimum wage in cities to what they call a living wage, which causes the price of a Quarter Pounder or a Big Mac to be more expensive because they don't eat Quarter Pounders and Big Macs.
Exactly.
They don't care
They don't
about
worry
that.
about this.
But
is
don't
the
make my home in the Hamptons more expensive.
Right. This is the Martha Raddatz living in $1 million mansion in Arlington, not understanding how thousands of people are scared at living in their apartment complexes.
But she's so sure of herself that she continues down this path, and it doesn't end well.
With the knock-on effect of your proposal to remove millions of people who work in a critical part of the economy.
Well, I think that what you would do is you would take, let's say, for example, the 7 million prime age men who have dropped out of the labor force, and you have a smaller number of women, but still millions of women prime age who have dropped out of the labor force. You absolutely could re-engage folks into the American labor market. This is, I think,
to work in construction.
Of course, you could.
I mean, the unemployment rate is 4.1%. Most people
unemployment rate, Lulu. This is important.
Americans? You mean white people?
You mean white people
will work in
building
construction?
things?
What?
Ew.
And he keeps saying 7 million prime age men. That's such a factor here. Think about that. Men in the prime of their lives who could be working construction, and by the way, making a ton of money and being strong, strapping men.
And what dropping out of the labor force means is they're not even looking for work.
They're not even trying. Right.
They're not trying.
And they make that point here because she tries to say, oh, but the unemployment rate is so low because she's so ill-informed that she doesn't realize that the unemployment rate does not reflect those who have actually dropped out of the market. But J.D. Vance instructs her.
But most people who don't work can't work in the regular economy. They're in the military, they're parents, they're sick, they're old. They might not want to work in construction.
No, but he said prime age men.
Does not count labor force participation dropouts. And again, this is one of the really deranged things that I think illegal immigration does to our society is it gets us in a mindset of saying we can only build houses with illegal immigrants when we have 7 million, just men, not even women, just men who have completely dropped out of the labor force. People say, well, Americans won't do those jobs. Americans won't do those jobs for below the table wages. They won't do those jobs for non-living wages. But people will do those jobs. They will just do those jobs at certain wages. And think about this from the perspective of an American company, okay? I want them to go searching in their own country for their own citizens. Sometimes people who may be struggling with addiction or trauma, get them re-engaged in American society. We cannot have an entire American business community that is giving up on American workers and then importing millions of illegal laborers. That is what we have thanks to Kamala Harris's border policies. I think it's one of the biggest drivers of inequality. It's one of the biggest reasons why we have millions of people who have dropped out of the labor force. Why try to re-engage an American citizen in a good job if you can just import somebody from Central America who's going to work under the table for poverty wages? It is a disgrace, and it has led to the evisceration of the American middle class.
Yeah, and on Twitter this week, I know he's brilliant, but on Twitter this weekend, there was a video that emerged. Someone retweeted it in 2007. This will tell you how extreme the left has become. And just in 2007, there is a video of Obama and Biden on a panel. And Biden says the exact same thing, essentially, that we need American companies to employ Americans first, not go to illegal immigrants, and that they basically, illegal immigrants do affect American jobs and wages. So this is not a radical thing he's saying. This is something that the left used to agree with.
Yeah.
The number of guest workers that are in the statute that we're trying to pass, and we tried to pass before comprehensive immigration reform, based upon need, not on an absolute number. And we should require employers to offer those jobs to citizens to see if they want those jobs. Case in point, you had Swift Meats down in North Carolina. INS came in. 800 people took off. The fact of the matter is they had to go out and hire people. Guess what? They had to double the wage and provide health insurance. They got all the North Carolinians they want to come and slit pigs' throats, which no one wants to do. They did it. And so that doesn't mean there's not room. We need agricultural workers. We need H-1B visas. We need what, in fact, exists as a need.
That panel that Joe Biden was on was an actual debate of the Democrat candidates for president in 2007. That's what that panel was, Julie.
It's
and he was saying, yeah, you know, this pork slaughtering company in South Carolina was hiring all illegal immigrants. They were under the table. They got busted by INS, and suddenly they raised their wages, offered benefits, and they hired Americans.
There you go. And that was only 2007.
That's
And you might not recognize that voice. That was a much more
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
It's 6:17. Let's get to Jamie Whitten now in the Hadid carpet cleaning traffic. It's been 20 years since a Republican has won the presidency via the Electoral College and also has won the national popular vote as well. That was George W. Bush on his re-election bid. Before that, it was his father that did it the last time in 1988. I lay that out there to explain to you. When you go all the way back to 1988, only twice has a Republican won the Electoral College and the popular vote. It tells you how rare it is. Even when a Republican wins the White House, it's via the electoral, but they won't win the popular vote. That, of course, is just pure math. The number of Democrats voting in California is so dominant, millions and millions and millions, and New York and Illinois, very populous states that are overwhelmingly Democrat, that it just makes sense that would happen. I say that because we don't often pay attention to the national popular vote or polls measuring the national popular vote because it's meaningless. We don't elect presidents that way. We elect them via the Electoral College. That said, when we see some data in the national popular polls that catches our eye and seems a little out of place, we want to highlight it. And that occurred yesterday as NBC News published their latest national popular vote poll.
Under duress.
Yes. That shows Kamala Harris and Donald Trump tied at 48. Wow. That's like pull the emergency cord. This is the Titanic for Democrats.
Frankly, we saw that. All of the morning shows. I know we played the clips of J.D. Vance, but there was, clear panic. And I think we're going to talk about later. Kristen Welker suddenly worried about Trump's cholesterol level.
Yes. Trying to manufacture something.
There was clear irrational panic going on those morning programs.
Now, to be clear, this comes after a week of battleground state-by-state polls that showed a clear trend of Donald Trump taking a lead, a substantial lead in some of these states. In fact, we had Tom Bevan on to talk about it on Friday. Right now, the map is very encouraging for Republicans and for the Republican ticket. And furthermore, it's encouraging in some of those very states that are battleground states for the Senate races, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. 3 states you're hearing quite a bit about with regard to the presidential race also have neck-and-neck Senate races going on as well. This is not good news for Kamala Harris or the Democrats. And yes, you are correct. We're going to see a lot more panic and a lot more ugly tactics and hyped up vitriol from those quarters. Let me tell you the latest Gallup poll of the battleground states. It is astounding. Minnesota right now, in the Gallup poll shows Trump up by 1 point. Minnesota has not voted for a Republican in the Electoral College since 1972. It was the only state that went for Reagan in 84.
But the rest of these numbers.
New Hampshire, Trump 1.4. Michigan, Trump 4.8. Georgia, Trump 5.2. Nevada, Trump 5.7. Pennsylvania, Trump 6.4.
What?
Arizona, Trump 7.3. Wisconsin 7.5. North Carolina 7.5. It is a wipeout, according to now again, it's according to this poll.
I'm not going to get excited.
Nor should you. We should act like we're 20 points down. You mentioned Kristen Welker. Here she is announcing the really bad news to her viewers.
The big headline, this is a national head-to-head poll, is that Vice President Kamala Harris had a 5-point lead in our last poll taken a month ago, right after the debate. That lead has all but evaporated.
And even further, listen to this as you drill down on the poll on the issues.
Remember, she's the VP in an unpopular administration. Look, we asked Joe Biden's policies as president, do you think they're helping or hurting your family? Look at that. Almost 2-to-1 say hurting more than helping. His job approval rating is in the low 40s. And then here's the twist. When you ask folks, when Trump was president, were his policies helping or hurting? Look at that difference. 44% say helping, 31% say they hurt. So retrospectively, Trump is getting some numbers here.
But did you catch that? It's Biden's fault. They're angry at Biden's.
But he makes that point. She's the current vice president in an unpopular administration. And last week, she went on The View, and Sunny Hostin asked her a layup question. Hey, is there anything you would do differently? I don't know, like Abbey Gate and the border. And she said, nothing comes to mind.
Can't think of a thing.
Which Trump turned into a campaign ad. This is why people know it's going to be more of the same.
It's a bad day if you're a Democrat waking up and looking at the polls. Coming up at 8:05, we'll speak with Charlie Spearing, author of Amateur Hour, about Kamala Harris and what to expect in the next 3 weeks. It's 6:20.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37, O'Connor and Company Monday morning. Thank ya for letting us be a part of your morning routine. Coming up at 7:05, Joe DeGeneva. 7:35, Trevor Maddich on the Commanders-Ravens game. And then at 8:05, Charlie Spearing, author of Amateur Hour, about Kamala Harris and her candidacy. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good Monday to you, Jules.
Good morning.
Kamala Harris, this is a remarkable weekend for her. I'm trying to put two and two together here, and as I said, we just laid out the latest polling, and it's not good. If you're Kamala Harris waking up today, it's not looking good at all. And this weekend, they had two big initiatives. The first was, I think I mentioned, the masculinization of Tim Walz. It began with his interview with Michael Strahan on Friday. We played clips of it for you here. It didn't go well. I got to say, Michael Strahan asked some of the best and most compelling follow-up questions than any journalist. And, of course, he's a former NFL player who's just sort of there on Good Morning America I'm not sure.
He's not a trained reporter. Not that you have to be.
No, you certainly don't. I would rather Michael Strahan moderate the next debate than Norah O'Donnell or anyone else on these Sunday shows. Then the further masculinization of Tim Walz included a photo op with him going pheasant hunting with his friends, because who among us doesn't go pheasant hunting with a borrowed $2,000 Beretta shotgun?
And with hunting, a hunting outfit that looked like you could still see the creases from when he pulled it out of the plastic container. It just looked so pristine.
The LL Bean outlets, and it was 100% Elmer Fudd. I mean, it's uncanny, absolutely uncanny how much he looked like Elmer Fudd. And then, of course, the video of him putting the butt of his shotgun against his groin area as he was attempting to load his Beretta. And then he posed for a couple of pictures with his friends there, and listen, I'm not the most masculine guy in the world. I don't want to cast aspersions, but he should have been trained on how to load the gun. How do you send him out there without showing, hey, this is how you load the gun, this is how you hold the gun, this is how you pose for a picture with a gun?
I honestly thought we were going to have a Dick Cheney shooting his friend moment watching it, because it was making me nervous.
That would have been more badass, actually, than what we saw from Tim Walz. So that's how you start the weekend, and then the polls come out, and everything's ugly. J.D. Vance is kicking butt, and so you're left with Kamala Harris doing a rally of sorts, and saying, well, we got to have something. We got to have something. So this is what they've got, Julie.
He's not being transparent with the voters. He's not being transparent. So check this out. He refuses to release his medical records. I've done it. Every other presidential candidate in modern era has done it.
Hold on a second there, Missy. This is the woman who was the vice president during the feeble nation of Biden and Bidenomics. I mean, this is the woman who willfully covered up the physical and mental decline of Joe Biden, right up until the day after the debate or the night of the debate. That was the end of his career. She was out there saying he's sharp as a tack. He was great.
still, when asked about it, how he left office and she was sort of, got the nomination without any primaries and
Acquired it.
she still says, exactly. She still says, it was his private decision. He wanted to move on. She doesn't talk about his health. Still.
And so now the issue is Trump isn't being transparent about his health.
It's laughable.
And then she did this whole acting thing. She is a performer. That's what she's doing. She's playing.
Which
a part.
accent was it?
She put up. I think this was the Quebecois, the Middle Canadian thing. She put her hand up to her chin. This was practiced before in front of the mirror at home. She put her hand up to her chin and then pondered why Trump would not show his medical records.
Here's the thing. It makes you wonder. Why does his staff want him to hide away?
Are you kidding?
One must question.
The dude is doing like a rally every other day in front of tens of thousands of people.
He sits down with unscripted and does this podcast, which is free talk.
Yeah.
For like an hour.
Or
yeah,
more.
And the rallies
Right.
that he
Kamala
does.
Harris has done now, finally she's done 3 interviews with Howard Stern, The View, and 60 Minutes, who deceptively edited the interview to make her look less moronic than she is. And she's never done a press conference. She has still never done a press conference with reporters.
Right.
And yet they're hiding Donald Trump away, is her claim.
I mean.
One must question, are they afraid that people will see that he is too weak and unstable to lead America? Is that what's going on?
Does she know there's video of Trump?
Yeah. Honestly, I wish I wish I had more analysis to give you about what's really going on here and what they're really. I have nothing. I have nothing for you.
I know. I don't either. I don't know how you say this with a straight face. I mean, you're just grasping.
However, here's what I can lend to the table. Kristen Welker, NBC News, dutifully picks this up and goes.
That's right.
She has Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, on Meet the Press this weekend. And what's the most pressing issue?
We're going to vote on.
Just to be very clear, he hasn't released all of his medical records. He released 2 letters. Should he release the results of the cognitive test?
It's unnecessary. He's on display every minute.
Yes. So it's unnecessary. You concede that he didn't release his medical records. You don't want to know things like his cholesterol level, whether he's dealing with any issue that we may not know about, if he's going to be commander-in-chief. And he also said he would release cognitive tests.
Listen to your question.
I love that Mike Johnson is doing the same thing J.D. Vance did.
Yes.
It's like, listen to yourself.
Do you hear yourself?
For God's sake, listen to yourself. But this is what they've been reduced to, and it is a glorious thing to watch.
It really is.
It is 6:43.
Headlines, analysis, perspective.
From the voices you trust.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
I've got more on the Democrats' desperation here with the polls looking the way they are in favor of Trump. They're calling out the big guns from Hollywood. Of course, the good news is this is no different than any other election. It's the same old people with the same old story and the same old, I'm a liberal
so boring
Hollywood actor, vote for me, and it doesn't work anymore. But that said, actor Bryan Cranston came out to break bad for Kamala.
I am not a politician.
No, you're not.
I am not a doctor.
No.
Or a lawyer.
You do nothing.
But I played all of those on television.
Exactly.
And now he thinks he's smart.
Now we should
But
listen.
I am a father of a daughter.
Oh.
And it's important to me, for her life now and for the future and other fathers' daughters, to be able to have within their lifetime the fundamental right of freedom of choice.
Oh, God. What father goes up there in front of the world and says, you need to vote for this person because my daughter needs to be able to kill my grandchild?
Liberal men.
That's so despicable. That's just
despicable.
gross. That's just
They are gross. There is nothing grosser on this God's green earth than a liberal man. Honestly, they are so fake. They are so false, and they're like Doug Emhoff. I mean, I don't want to say all of them, but they pretend to be these great woke feminists when in reality
that's
not
your
so nice to
opinion,
women.
Julie Gunlock. But if a dude is out there trying to attract a hottie like Jennifer Garner, she's just given the signal. The way to land a babe like Jennifer Garner.
Listen, I know you've knocked and knocked, and I know you've called and called. I know you've given and given, and you're worn out. But the truth is, you are the front lines. This is it. I mean, I'm looking at these beautiful faces, these women, and at these strong men. God, is there anything sexier than a man who is like men for Kamala?
They're all gay, by the
Who was
way,
she
Jennifer.
married to? Who was she married to?
She was married to Ben Affleck.
I mean,
who
come on.
knocked her up and left her to go to J-Lo, and then left J-Lo apparently now, and is just. But she's a good judge of these things.
I mean, she has a really good judge of character in men.
And I do hate to tell you, but a lot of those men for Kamala, as we saw in the ad last week, are not your type, Jennifer, or you're not their type. Let's just say. Julia Roberts, though, boy, God, seriously, what was the last thing Julia Roberts has done that's of note?
I just hope that all the women here tonight talk to all the men that aren't here tonight, and all you brave men that are here tonight.
Brave.
It's like Bastone.
Talk to all the other men that aren't here tonight.
By the way, this is what you're hearing. This is the bullying tactics that they're about to have. They want women to talk to the men in their lives. The women in your life, whether they're a wife or a mother or whatever, if they seem to lean toward the left, they're going to like corner you in the next 3 weeks and say, if you love me, you won't vote for him. You won't vote for that man if you love me. This is a thing they do.
That's
this is
exactly
it.
right.
But listen to the argument as to why it's so important to get Kamala in. Listen to this argument.
And let's just get it going. Enough with the fighting. Let's get to the uniting. Let's get to the joy. Let's get to the repair. Let's get to prices dropping, rents dropping. Let's get to the good stuff so we can start living our lives to the fullest potential that we have.
Yes, we need our world to be more affordable.
And I really bet she worries about her rent going down.
Set aside that, if you really agree that things are too expensive or rent is too high and food is too high, it's like, who the hell is vice president right now? Who are you running against exactly?
But I do just love this appeal to normal people. Like,
exactly.
I can't wait till prices come down.
Meanwhile, over the weekend at a Trump rally in California in Coachella, actor Dennis Quaid, who recently played Ronald Reagan in the Reagan movie, he was at the rally and he endorsed Donald Trump. And, well, you pick your 80s superstar. You want Julia Roberts or you want Dennis Quaid? 6:52.
Making sense of your world.
Thank you for everything you do for this country. We need more of you.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.